Michael, Don, and Peter with you. Brian Cashman is in San Antonio at the GM meetings. This is the GM meetings, not the winter meetings. That takes place a little bit later on in the calendar. But Brian did take questions today, and he was asked his takeaway from facing the Dodgers in the World Series.
I think a lot of things can, first and foremost, I acknowledge that we played poorly in the World Series. First and foremost, we all saw that. And unfortunately, our A game didn't show up when it counted the most. I also think, objectively, if you take a step back and analyze who we played, whether it was the Dodgers or any of the other postseason teams that were participating, whether it was us playing them or other teams in the National League, those rosters are all constructed with players that do things in some category better than others. You have exceptionally great defenders that don't hit as well. You have really good hitters that don't defend as well, and the combination of how it all fits together plays out a certain way over the course of 162, and then in the month of October if you're lucky to get there. So we have some players that are better offensively than they are defensively. We have some players that are better defensively than they are offensively. So I don't think it's anything other than I acknowledge that we did not play well in certain categories, especially in the World Series.
Oh, what the hell's he saying?
No, he's saying that I think what he's saying is we're good enough to beat the Dodgers. We just didn't play well.
Well, good luck with that, because then what you're saying is we're good.
Well, that's pretty much what he's saying. Now, he goes on to say, hey, we underperformed in the World Series.
Every year your season ends, you do your best to attack areas of weakness. You currently have players that will remain with your team, and then you have a chance to go to marketplace to see if you can improve the team in certain ways, shape, or form, and we're back at it. That's the nature of the beast. That's how it always is. So, but I don't think that the question posed is if the Dodgers are exceptionally excelling in all categories at every position. They're the world champs and they get all the credit, but I don't think it's a fair representation at the same time. I think it's more fair to say, did we just play poorly in that series and underperform? I think we underperformed in that series, more so than somehow this team was lucky to get to the World Series, and how did we even get there? And we had a good team. Unfortunately, we just didn't play our best when it counted the most, and we played a good team. So as every team you're playing in the postseason is.
One thing that I would say, and I've said this before, the Yankees did not play their A game against the Royals and the Guardians. But the Royals and the Guardians are not good enough to take advantage. So since they didn't play their A game in those series, and then they didn't play their A game in the Dodger series, maybe that is their A game. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But the Dodgers would not let you play B-level baseball and beat them. Now, earlier today, Mookie Betts had Dave Roberts on his podcast, and Dave Roberts admitted, I was deathly afraid to play a Game 6. That's why he managed the way he did with Trinan coming in the sixth inning. They were definitely afraid of a Game 6. Yankees could have come all the way back, but it didn't work out that way. Now, Joe Kelly, the Dodger reliever who was not active because he was on the IL, he made some incendiary comments about the Yankees, and we played them yesterday for you. And Cashman talked about Joe Kelly's comments.
I heard that. I also know people with the Dodgers, so I've got some internal conversations that I've got certainly feedback on. I think it's more representative of some specific players rather than the overall group. And in Joe's case, it feels like it's some reason it's a little personal, the way he's out talking is like he has. So it feels like that's more personal than anything else. So I can't make much more than that, but I know he's certainly talking a lot right now, and hey, he won, or they won, so I can just say what I just said.
Okay. I don't know, more to the first couple of comments, Michael, why he gets so defensive about it. I'm sorry, what is so wrong with just saying, hey, we just weren't good enough? We'll get them next year.
Because he built the team. If they're not good enough, it's on him.
All right, but don't make it seem like, well, the format's like, no, this is the format. This is how we choose champions. And you just said it best, Michael. When you look at the totality of the 24 season, the 162 games and the postseason, you can make the case that the World Series was more representative of what the Yankees are than how well they played at the start of the season. I think there was a lot more very average than there was great. But the great still counts, and that got them the division, and they were able to navigate through the American League. No apologies for that. But to just stand there and, again, in other words, Michael, say it's a crapshoot. That's kind of what he's saying. Yeah, this is the system, and, we just didn't play well enough. But, he just refuses to believe that they were beaten by a better team. That if they went out there and played again, Michael, that they would have won 4-1. I don't think so. I think now that 5th inning was a complete exaggeration, but I stood by at the time. I picked the Dodgers, and I'll still say I think the better team won. So just go pick yourself up by your bootstraps and try to improve the team. Don't just stay there and say, well, just hey, that happens. That's the format. Oh, we didn't play our A game. No, I don't. I think if they played that series 3 times, the Yankees lose all 3.
See, that's where you and I separated a little bit. I mean, that's your opinion. My opinion is that they could beat the Dodgers. I don't think there's that much of a difference in the teams. I mean, the fact that the Yankees don't run the bases well hurts them.
Well, that's part of the Michael.
I get it, but I mean,
not being great defensively,
and their bats go sleepy time. Bobo.
Going 1 for 12 in an elimination game with runners on.
But if you look at the breakdown of both teams, they were remarkably similar.
Yeah,
the Dodgers scored 1 more run. Yankees hit better, more home runs. And they had a better ERA. It's just they lost.
Oh, but then how come the Dodgers can't say, you know what, we should have swept them because we could have played better?
Think that.
We could have done better with runners in scoring position. We could have scored more runs. We didn't have really that great a starting pitching. So we should have wiped the floor with them. They won in 5, so they don't have to say that. But I'm sorry, you're the general manager of a team. You're going to need to improve. That would scare me if I'm a Yankee fan. Like, so you sign Soto, and you just run it back. And then we'll get them next time.
You don't have to worry about that because they can't run it back. They have so many free agents that aren't running it back.
I get it, but it also makes you seem like you're closer than you are.
They are close, Don. They lost in 5 games in the World Series. They're not far apart.
I know, but there's a lot of other teams that feel like they're close. The Mets were 2 wins away from going to the World Series. For all we know, they might have won the World Series. Padres could be looking like we had 2 cracks to eliminate the Dodgers.
And they probably all think they're close.
Right, but not everybody can be close. And all I know is that, Michael, it wasn't like a beam of light came down from the moon and got in the eyes of the players and they booted the ball around. They made those mistakes.
Yeah, but he did bring up something. I think this was yesterday. The Yankees have a bad defensive team, but the guys who made the errors in that 5th inning are good defenders. Volpe's a Gold Glove winner. Judge didn't make an error all year, so I mean, it does happen. It wasn't the bad defenders that the Yankees have that made those errors.
I'm sorry, man. It just I don't like it. And listen, the Yankee fans can hate me. I'm not a Yankee fan, but 2 years ago, we had injuries, or this time, hey, we know we can play better. What is so wrong with just saying we need to improve? We weren't good enough. They were better than us. So hopefully next year, if we get a crack at them again, we'll be able to beat them. I just don't like the excuse making, and we didn't play our A game. Well, I'm sorry. You lost in 5. Yeah, all the games were competitive, and yeah, you booted it away in the 5th inning, Michael, but you lost in 5 games. And like I said, if you were to power rank the Yankees at the end of the playoffs, you can make the case to the 5th best team.
And you can make the case that they're second.
I don't know. You can't. I don't think you can make that case.
Why not? They're in the World Series.
I understand, but to get to the World Series, they had to go through the American League.
Well, that's all that's in front of them. They can only play who they're supposed to play.
I'm just saying, you can make the case that was the easiest team that the Dodgers played. That the Padres and the Mets were better. You can make that case. I mean, you can also make the case the Yankees are better. But you know what we talk about? Well, you're the second best team because you represent the American League. You only had to go through the American League. I think everybody would acknowledge the National League was better when you have the Phillies and the way the Mets played in the second half of the season and the Padres and the Dodgers. Like, there's a lot of really good teams in the National League that the Dodgers had to get through. To get through the Padres, to get through the Mets, the way the Mets were playing. And acknowledging that the Yankees didn't play that great against the Royals or the Guardians to get to the World Series, then you could have a really interesting argument that of the 3 teams the Dodgers played, the Yankees were the worst of the 3.
You can make any argument you want. You can make an argument that the Milwaukee Brewers are better. I mean, again, you can make the argument. I think I can win an argument with you.
But I don't think you can win an argument thinking the Brewers would do it because I think the Central stunk. But I'm saying you can have the argument, Michael, but you choose to believe what you want to believe.
But you believe in the Mets, right? And as you should. They were within 2 games of going to the World Series. They were within 3 outs of losing to the Brewers, a team that you think is not that good.
True.
So, I mean, I'm saying, I mean, we could go on prattling for hours about this, but I mean, Joe Kelly dissing the Yankees, they're the 8th best team in baseball.
I'm not defending that, Michael, and I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that this is the system that we have to choose it. And you lost 4 games to 1. So you could stand up and go, we didn't get the breaks, or we could be play better, but you lost in 5 games. So get better.
Now
that you can't even argue that. Everything else is just opinion about if they're better or if this went that way. You lost in 5 games.
Cashman spoke about Soto, and they asked him, what's the latest?
I had a conversation with Scott Boras yesterday, so I know he was going to have conversations with Juan. Since he knows us, we are standing ready to meet with him if he feels necessary to meet with us, as he understands the landscape of opportunities that now exist for himself. He's played, obviously, in Washington. He played in San Diego. Now he's played here. So we are more than willing to meet as many times as he would like to meet, but I think Scott Boras is going to talk to Juan and get a feel for whether he felt it was necessary for us to have as many time in person with him as other clubs, because he knows us, so we stand ready to do whatever. Certainly have an interest in retaining him, and we'll put our best foot forward there. But at the same time, that will either lead to us retaining him and signing him back, or we'll be forced to go to a different direction if we can. And if we can't, there's a lot of different players in this marketplace that can positively impact this roster in different ways. So we will be working on every aspect of opportunity and exploring any way possible to put together the best team we possibly can for 2025, because we want to get back to where we just finished, which was in the World Series.
Now, Mike Poom of the Post is reporting the Yankees have checked in on Alonso. I mean, that's just due diligence. But Brian Cashman was asked, did you and Boras talk about Alonso?
Yeah, sure he did. So there's a lot of high-quality players in this marketplace, and certainly Pete did an amazing job with the Mets. And so I had a brief conversation with Scott about a lot of his. He has a lot of free agents, which is normal, and Pete's one of them. So yes.
No, I'm trying to remember the whole but don't they have to say they're in on everybody?
You can't say you're out. You don't have to say you're in.
You can't say you're out, right? But if you're not saying you're out, then you have to say you're in.
Well, you could say
right?
I just spoke to Scott about everybody.
Yeah.
Now, Torres, they did not offer the qualifying offer to Gleyber Torres and talked about Gleyber.
I think Gleyber has been a really good Major League Baseball player in the end. One of the reasons why we got as far as we did. I'm not going to dissect what he's good at and what he's not as good at. Obviously, I think he'll have a lot of conversations with a lot of teams that have a need in that area, and that also might include us. Who knows? But I appreciate his efforts while he was here, and he was mashing down the stretch like we needed him to be. But again, everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, but I'm not going to dissect what's best as we move forward. We're just going to obviously make the best decisions we can with what's available from within or outside. We can import a third baseman, move Jazz over. We can promote from within with a guy like Caleb Durbin, for instance, who's crushing it in the Arizona Fall League. We can run into some trade opportunities or free agents. Just not sure what we're going to do just yet, but I want to thank Gleyber for the time while he was here without closing any doors either on a reunion either.
It doesn't sound like there's going to be a reunion. And finally...
It didn't sound...
No.
When you the thank yous don't lend itself.
No, that's for sure. Cashman was finally asked about the team's base running or lack thereof.
I think it's indicative. Sometimes in any individual season, you can get some positive momentum and that you're really excelling at. You can get some negative momentum that you can't seem to get out of, using an example of hitting and running in scoring position. Some years, you can have the same team and you excel at it. Other years, you start out of the gate and you're really bad at it and you don't get any better at it. It becomes part of your DNA. There's good habits you develop and there are bad habits you develop. You try what you can to get out of them. Some people are really good at it. Some people aren't as good at it. So, as I said, we do the best we can navigating it. It's not necessarily something I would say that I think by the question is, are the Yankees historically bad at base running, or was this year's version had a bad base running situation? This year's version, we weren't good. It wasn't something we were good at. And obviously, like every winter, we're challenged to try to find ways to get better in certain areas, and we do what we can to improve upon that. Last year, we struggled scoring offense. This year, we didn't. We went to town trying to fix it. So this winter, we'll go to town to try to fix and make sure we're better at base running next year. Simple as that.
So, he said he's going to try to get better.
He should run for office.
Now, he was also asked about Aaron Boone using Nestor Cortez in Game 1. And his answer was, I support Aaron Boone with every decision he made, every step of the way. The way he managed the postseason for us was exceptional. Sorry, y'all.
Now, is that I agree with Boone, or that's what the organization felt was the best decision? So it would be kind of just disingenuous for him to disagree with Boone, right?
Right. That's why I say any manager that manages for a highly analytic team is hypocritical if they fire him. Now, Cashman was also asked if Steve Cohen's net worth makes him nervous in re-signing Soto. And he said, I think that's just the nature of the beast. We do our best to compete with whomever on a year-in, year-out basis. So there you have it.